The hand clamped around Chloe's arm like a vice, fingers digging deep enough to bruise the bone. She cried out as Mike yanked her from her seat, her phone clattering to the floor. "Get this trash off my plane!" Linda Harrington shrieked, actually clapping as Chloe stumbled into the aisle. Megan Thompson's heel came down hard, deliberately kicking the phone under the seat. "We'll mail it to you," she sneered, her smile vicious. Chloe's vision blurred with tears as they dragged her toward the door. Every passenger watched. Every passenger judged. Nobody helped. Her fingers had managed one thing before losing the phone. One call to the only person who could stop this. The man who controlled every drop of fuel flowing into the New York airport. Her father. Before we see what happens when you humiliate a billionaire's daughter, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story of instant karma will leave you speechless. And drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this incredible story travels around the world. Trust me, you need to stay until the end for this. Now, let's jump in. Chloe Bennett had learned to make herself small. Not physically. She was already petite. But in the way she moved through the world. Small voice, small presence, small expectations from the people who looked at her. Being David Bennett's only daughter came with scrutiny she had never asked for. She had already mastered the art of disappearing in plain sight. The vintage gray hoodie that hung loose on her frame was not a fashion statement. It was camouflage. The worn Converse sneakers on her feet had carried her through months of Harvard cobblestones and late-night study sessions. Her natural curls were pulled into a messy bun because she had overslept and nearly missed her airport shuttle. To anyone watching her walk through JFK Terminal that humid afternoon, Chloe was just another broke college student flying standby, probably using miles, probably hoping for an upgrade that would not come. Perfect. That was exactly what she wanted them to see. What they could not see was the trust fund, the private security team tracking her every movement through airport cameras. The fact that her father's company, Bennett Energy Solutions, supplied aviation fuel to most East Coast airports. That the boarding pass on her phone represented an expensive first-class ticket, purchased specifically for safety reasons her father insisted on. Chloe preferred it this way. At Harvard, she was just Chloe, the American girl who never missed a library session and volunteered at legal aid clinics on weekends. Not Chloe Bennett, daughter of the man Forbes called the king of clean energy. Not the girl whose coming out party made page 6. Just Chloe. She clutched her phone tighter, reading her father's last text. "Head down, baby girl. Security meets you at Logan. Love you more than my next billion, Dad." She smiled despite herself. Her father's terrible jokes were as reliable as his overprotectiveness. The priority boarding lane stretched before her, separated from the massive economy line by a red velvet rope. People snaked through the regular line, juggling carry-ons and passports and screaming toddlers. The priority lane sat completely empty. Chloe stepped up to the podium. The gate agent glanced up and Chloe watched it happen in real time. The flicker of assessment, eyes traveling from Chloe's face to her hoodie to her scuffed sneakers and back up. The almost imperceptible curl of the lip. Emily Rodriguez, according to the name tag, did not bother with the smile. "Economy boarding starts soon," Emily said, her tone suggesting Chloe was wasting her valuable time. "The main zone will be called over the PA. You will need to wait with everyone else in the main line." Chloe had been through this exact scenario many times before. Many times she had been dismissed, redirected, told she was in the wrong place by people who made snap judgments based on her appearance. Usually, she just showed her ticket and moved on. Did not make a fuss. Did not prove a point. But today, something in Emily's voice, that casual dismissal, that assumption, made Chloe's jaw tighten. "I have a first-class ticket," Chloe said, her voice quiet but clear. Seat 1A. She held up her phone. Boarding pass displayed clearly. Emily did not even look at the screen. She was too busy inventorying Chloe's outfit again, as if searching for evidence of fraud. The priority lane is for actual first-class passengers and Diamond Medallion members only, Emily said, each word clipped. If you upgraded using miles, that is very nice, but you still board with your original ticketing class. Please step aside so you do not block the customers who actually belong here. Actual customers, actual first-class passengers actually belong. The words hit like small explosions. Chloe felt heat creeping up her neck, felt her pulse quicken, but she kept her face neutral. She had learned long ago that showing anger just confirmed their assumptions. Stay calm, stay dignified, prove them wrong. Quietly, I did not upgrade, Chloe said, stepping forward. I purchased a first-class ticket. Would you please just scan? Miss, I really do not have time for this debate. If you insist you have priority boarding, you can wait until I finish with actual priority customers and we will sort it out then. Now, please move. The people in the economy line were starting to notice. Chloe could feel their eyes. She could hear the whispers starting. Fine. Chloe placed her phone directly on the scanner. Beep, beep. Green light flooded the podium. Bennett. Chloe, seat 1A, welcome aboard, the automated voice announced cheerfully. Emily's face went through a fascinating transformation. Surprise flickered first, then embarrassment, then something harder, something that looked almost like resentment. Her cheeks flushed, 2 red spots high on her cheekbones. For a moment, Emily just stared at the screen. Chloe waited. Surely now Emily would apologize, would acknowledge the mistake. Emily snatched Chloe's passport without a word, flipped through the pages roughly, as if hoping to find some discrepancy, some reason to be right. She found nothing, of course. The passport was legitimate. The ticket was legitimate. Chloe was legitimate. Emily slammed the passport on the counter. Go ahead, she muttered, refusing eye contact, already turning back to her computer screen as if Chloe had ceased to exist the moment she was proven wrong. No apology, no acknowledgement, just dismissal. Chloe picked up her passport with shaking hands and walked down the jet bridge, her heart hammering against her ribs. It was just rudeness, just another microaggression in a lifetime of microaggressions. She had survived worse, but God, it never stopped hurting. The jet bridge felt endless, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. She could still hear Emily's voice in her head. Actual customers actually belong. Breathe, Chloe whispered to herself. Just get to your seat. Headphones on. The flight. Then Boston, then Harvard, then back to normal. Normal? What a concept. She stepped through the aircraft door and into first class. The temperature dropped immediately, the air conditioning hitting her like stepping into a refrigerator after the humid jet bridge. The cabin smelled expensive, leather and subtle cologne, and that particular scent of newness that came from constant deep cleaning. The seats were massive, cream-colored leather recliners that looked like they belonged in a luxury living room, not an airplane. Soft amber lighting glowed overhead. A flight attendant stood at the galley, her back to the door, arranging champagne flutes on a silver tray, with the precision of someone who had done this thousands of times. When she turned around, Chloe's first thought was that she looked like every flight attendant in every airline commercial. Tall, blonde, but well-preserved with the kind of polished appearance that suggested a full face of makeup was part of the uniform. Her name tag caught the light. Megan Thompson. Megan's face was lit with a brilliant smile, her attention focused on an older white man settling into the seat next to hers. He was arranging an expensive-looking briefcase in a camel hair coat with the careful attention of someone who knew. His possessions cost more than most people made in a month. "Mr. Caldwell?" Megan practically sang. "Let me take that coat for you. And can I start you with champagne, or would you prefer sparkling water?" "Champagne sounds perfect, Megan." Mr. Caldwell's voice had that particular accent of old money, boarding schools, and country clubs. "You always know exactly what I need." "It is absolutely my pleasure, Mr. Caldwell. My absolute pleasure." Chloe watched the exchange, watched Megan's body language. The way she leaned in just slightly, the way her hands gestured with practiced grace. This was a performance, Chloe realized. Megan was performing the role of the perfect first-class flight attendant. Chloe tried to slip past quietly, murmuring a soft, "Excuse me," as she moved toward her seat. The change happened so fast, Chloe almost missed it. Megan's head turned, her eyes landed on Chloe, and the warm smile evaporated like water on hot asphalt. Her face went blank, then cold. Then something worse, disgusted. Megan stepped directly into the aisle, physically blocking the path to the seat. "Hold on," she said, and her voice had transformed completely. The warmth was gone. This was sharp, cutting, designed to put Chloe in her place. "You are lost, sweetie. Economy is straight through that curtain in the back. You will want to keep walking until you see the economy rows." The condescension dripped from every word. "Sweetie, lost economy." Chloe stopped, her messenger bag sliding slightly on her shoulder. She took a breath, steadying herself. "I am in seat 1A, she said quietly. Megan laughed. It was the kind of laugh that was not about humor. It was about humiliation. It was loud, performative, designed to draw attention. And it worked. Mr. Caldwell glanced up from his champagne. Two other passengers, a middle-aged couple settling into seats across the aisle, turned their heads. 1A, Megan repeated, projecting her voice like an actress on stage. "Oh, honey, number 1A is our premium window seat. That is reserved for full-fare first-class passengers. We are talking CEOs, government officials, people who actually paid for the seat. I'm guessing you probably used some miles for an upgrade. That is wonderful. Good for you. But upgraded passengers do not get seat selection. You were probably actually in an economy seat or something like that." Each word was a tiny knife. "Actually paid. Actually. Megan held out her hand, palm up, fingers wiggling impatiently. "Let me see your ticket, and we will get you sorted out." Chloe pulled out her phone, unlocking it with fingers that wanted to shake, but she would not let them. Before she could even turn the screen toward Megan, the flight attendant snatched the phone right out of her hand. "Hey," Chloe gasped. "Just checking the details," Megan said breezily, scrolling through Chloe's phone like it was her property. Her eyes scanned the boarding pass, and Chloe watched her expression shift. Confusion first, then disbelief, then something that looked almost like anger. "Chloe Bennett, seat 1A, ticket purchased full fare first class." The information was right there, impossible to deny. Megan's jaw clenched. She thrust the phone back at Chloe, practically dropping it into her hands. "Well," Megan said, her voice tight, "the system makes mistakes sometimes. Computer glitches happen constantly. There is absolutely no way you actually paid that much for this seat." She looked Chloe up and down slowly, deliberately, making sure Chloe understood she was being assessed and found wanting. "Look at you. We have standards in first class, a dress code, smart casual at minimum. You are wearing gym clothes, or are those pajamas? I honestly cannot tell." The comment landed with surgical precision. Chloe felt it in her chest, felt the familiar burn of humiliation. Several passengers were openly staring now. Chloe could feel their eyes crawling over her hoodie, her leggings, her sneakers. "There is no dress code for passengers," Chloe said, and she was proud that her voice did not shake. "I paid for this seat. It is mine. I am sitting in it." For a long moment, Megan just stared at her. Chloe could practically see the calculations happening behind those cold blue eyes. Could she really force this girl to move? What were the rules exactly? What could she get away with? Finally, Megan took a small step to the side, but not before leaning in close. Close enough that Chloe could smell her perfume. Something floral and overwhelming. "Fine," Megan hissed, her voice dropping to just above a whisper. "Sit. But let me be very clear. If the actual owner of that seat shows up, if there was any kind of booking error, you are moving all the way to the back, right next to the bathrooms, where you will probably be more comfortable anyway." She spun away, her movements sharp with suppressed anger, and returned to the galley. Chloe slid into her seat, her whole body trembling now that the confrontation was over. She fumbled with her seatbelt, her fingers clumsy. She could feel Megan's gaze burning into the back of her head, could feel the weight of judgment from the other passengers. She pulled out her headphones with shaking hands and placed them over her ears, desperate to create some barrier between herself and the hostility radiating through the cabin. Just breathe. Just survive the flight. You can do the flight. But even as she thought it, Chloe knew something was wrong. She could feel it in the air, and the way Megan kept glancing at her with barely concealed contempt. This was not over. Time crawled by. The cabin filled slowly. Chloe kept her eyes closed, her headphones on, music playing loud enough to drown out the world. She noticed a pattern even with her eyes closed. She could hear Megan's voice changing pitch and tone with each new passenger. Warm and welcoming for the older white men in business suits. Deferential and sweet for the elegantly dressed white women with designer handbags. Noticeably cooler when a younger South Asian man in traditional dress passed through. Almost dismissive when an older black woman, beautifully dressed in a purple suit and pearls, asked for help with her overhead luggage. Megan pointed her toward a male flight attendant rather than helping herself. Chloe saw it all through half-closed eyes, recognized it, had lived it. The seat next to her remained empty. Maybe she would get lucky. Maybe she would have space to spread out to avoid further interaction. Then the shouting started. "This is completely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable." The voice came from the aircraft door, shrill and demanding, cutting through the quiet murmur of boarding passengers like a siren. Every head in first class turned. The woman who swept into the cabin looked like she had time-traveled from a soap opera and brought the costume department with her. She wore a massive faux fur coat despite the heat, the synthetic fibers catching the cabin lights. Gold dripped from her wrists, her neck, her ears, heavy and ostentatious. She carried a designer bag that probably cost a fortune, and her blonde hair was teased and sprayed into a helmet that defied physics. Her face was red, twisted with fury, and she was pointing a ringed finger at Megan like a weapon. I specifically requested the bulkhead window seat. I have sciatica. Do you understand? A medical condition. I need leg room or I am in agony for the flight. Mrs. Harrington. Megan's entire being transformed. The cold professionalism melted into pure obsequious deference. She rushed forward, hands clasped like she was approaching royalty. "Oh my goodness, I am so terribly sorry. There must have been a terrible mistake at the gate. Please, please let me see what I can do to fix this immediately." "I do not want apologies, Megan. I want solutions." Linda Harrington's voice could have shattered at glass. I have been flying with Skyline Air for years of loyalty, and this is how you treat your most valuable customers? Of course not. Never, Mrs. Harrington. You are absolutely right. Let me just check the seating chart and see what options. I do not want options. I want that seat. Linda spun around, her eagle eyes scanning the first-class cabin like a predator searching for prey. Her gaze locked onto Chloe's seat, onto the empty seat beside Chloe. "There," Linda said, her voice sharp with triumph. "That window seat. I will take that one." Chloe's stomach dropped through the floor. No, please no. She stared out the window, trying to become invisible, trying to will this moment not to be happening. Megan's eyes lit up like someone had just solved all her problems at once. Chloe could actually see the thought forming on Megan's face. Here was the perfect solution. She could make her VIP customer happy and get rid of the girl in the hoodie who had embarrassed her. 2 problems solved with 1 action. A slow, calculating smile spread across Megan's face. "Of course, Mrs. Harrington. Of course. Let me handle this immediately." Megan walked down the aisle with purpose, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. When she reached Chloe's row, she did not ask politely. She did not even fake politeness. She tapped Chloe on the shoulder hard, her fingers digging in with just enough pressure to hurt. Chloe pulled off her headphones and looked up, her heart already sinking. "Excuse me," Megan said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Professional on the surface, but with an edge of satisfaction underneath. "We have a situation. Mrs. Harrington is one of our most valued customers. She has been flying with us for years. She is diamond medallion level. She is a personal friend of our CEO, and she has a serious medical condition that requires her to sit in this specific window seat. I'm going to need you to move to another seat right now." Chloe's mouth went dry. "I am very sorry about her medical condition, but I booked this specific seat in advance. I paid full fare for this exact seat." "It does not matter when you booked it," Megan cut her off, the fake politeness dropping completely. "This is about customer service and compassion. Mrs. Harrington is in pain. She needs this seat. You are young and perfectly healthy. You can sit anywhere on this aircraft. Now, I am asking you politely to gather your things and move." "I paid for this seat," Chloe said, and she could hear her voice starting to shake. "I specifically chose it. I am not moving." The cabin went absolutely silent. Mr. Caldwell lowered his Wall Street Journal slowly, his eyes wide. Linda Harrington let out a theatrical gasp, her hand flying to her chest. 2 passengers across the aisle stopped mid-conversation, mouths literally hanging open. A businessman in another row pulled out his phone. Megan's face began to change color, a blotchy red creeping up from her neck. "What did you just say to me?" Megan's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I said, I am not moving. This is my assigned seat. I paid for it. It is mine. Listen to me very carefully." Megan leaned down, her face inches from Chloe's, close enough that Chloe could see the powder caked in the fine lines around her eyes. "I just gave you a polite request. Now I am giving you a direct order from the lead flight attendant. Grab your bag and move to Mrs. Harrington's assigned seat in economy. Or actually, you know what? I can probably find you something in the back of the plane, near the galley or the bathrooms. Somewhere you will fit in better. Somewhere more appropriate for someone like you. Someone like you." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Chloe's hands gripped the armrest so hard her knuckles went white. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to back down, to avoid the scene, to just move and make this all go away. But something deeper, something that had been building through years of these moments, Years of being dismissed and diminished and told she did not belong rose up in her chest. "No," Chloe said. The word echoed through the first-class cabin like a gunshot. Linda Harrington made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a shriek. "Well, well, I have never in my entire life been treated with such disrespect. Megan, are you going to let this child speak to us this way? Are you going to let her steal my seat while I am standing here in agony?" Megan straightened up, crossing her arms over her chest. Her eyes were hard, her jaw set. "You need to understand something," she said, her voice carrying through the cabin. "You are disrupting this flight. You are refusing direct instructions from the flight crew, which is a federal offense under FAA regulations. If you do not move to another seat immediately, I will call security. They will physically remove you from this aircraft. You will be banned from flying with Skyline Air. You will likely be charged with interfering with a flight crew. Do you understand what that means? A criminal record. Your whole future. Everything you have worked for ruined. All because you are too stubborn to show basic human decency to a woman in pain. Is that really what you want?" Chloe's vision was starting to tunnel. She could hear blood rushing in her ears, could feel tears building behind her eyes, and absolutely refused to let them fall. "I have not disrupted anything," she said, and was amazed her voice came out steady. "I boarded my flight. I sat in my assigned seat. I have not raised my voice. I have not threatened anyone. All I have done is exist in a seat I paid for." "You are being belligerent and uncooperative," Megan snapped. "Exactly." Linda Harrington jumped in, emboldened. "Look at her. Look at how she is dressed. This is first class, not some homeless shelter. I paid good money for this ticket, and I should not have to look at this the entire flight. Megan, call security. Get her out." The businessman in another row was definitely filming now. Chloe could see the phone pointed in her direction. Whispers rippled through the cabin. She should just move. It is not that big a deal. Why is she being so difficult? Probably did not even pay for the ticket. I heard they are gaming the system now, buying tickets just to cause scenes. And Sue. Each whisper was a knife, but Chloe kept her face neutral, kept her breathing steady. Megan pulled a phone from her pocket and pressed a button. "This is Flight Attendant Thompson on the flight. I have an uncooperative passenger refusing crew instructions. I need a supervisor and security at the gate immediately." Chloe's pulse was racing now, panic starting to edge through the anger. They were really doing this. They were really going to have her arrested for sitting in the seat she had paid for. Her hand moved to her hoodie pocket. Her fingers found her phone. She had sworn she would not do this. Sworn she would never use her father's name, his power, his influence. She had spent her whole life trying to be just Chloe, trying to prove she could make it on her own merit. But as she looked at Megan's triumphant face, as she heard Linda Harrington's cruel laughter, as she felt the weight of every passenger's judgment pressing down on her, Chloe made a choice. Today she was not just Chloe. Today she was Chloe Bennett, and she was done being small. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to a contact. "Dad? Emergency only." Her thumb hovered over the call button for just a second. "Do not you dare make a phone call." Megan barked, reaching for the phone. "No recording, no calls. That is airline policy. Touch me again," Chloe said, her voice suddenly cold as ice. "And I will sue you personally for assault. That is battery. That is a crime. And I promise you, my lawyers are significantly better than yours." Megan froze, her hands suspended in midair. Something in Chloe's tone made her hesitate. Chloe pressed call. The phone rang once, twice. "Princess." Her father's voice came through deep and warm and familiar, and Chloe felt something crack in her chest. "Everything okay? You should be wheels up by now." "Dad." Her voice caught slightly. "I need you to listen to me very, very carefully." She heard immediate movement on the other end of the line. A chair scraping back, papers rustling, her father's voice sharpened. "All business. Talk to me. What is happening?" "I am on the flight to Logan. The lead flight attendant, her name is Megan Thompson, is trying to force me out of my seat for another passenger. They are threatening to have me arrested. They are calling me disruptive." "They are who wants your seat?" Her father's voice went very quiet, dangerously quiet. "A woman named Linda Harrington. She is, say that name again, Linda Harrington. She says she has sciatica and needs the window seat, and they are trying to make me move to economy. And Dad, they grabbed me. They hurt my arm. They took my phone and put me on speaker. Baby girl. Dad, they will not listen. They have already called security there." A large man in a Skyline Air uniform was pushing through the boarding passengers, his face grim and determined. This was Mike Ramirez, a gate agent who had been told there was an aggressive passenger causing problems. "Ma'am," Mike said, his voice gruff and brooking no argument, "I am going to need you to gather your belongings and come with me right now." "Do not touch her!" David Bennett's voice roared from Chloe's phone loud enough that Mike actually stopped moving. Mike frowned down at the phone. "Who the hell is that?" "My father," Chloe said. "And if you put your hands on me, you are committing assault and battery on a young woman." "You are not a minor," Megan interjected. "I am also a paying passenger who has broken no laws, who has complied with every legitimate instruction, who is sitting in my assigned seat that I paid for," Chloe continued, her voice rising slightly. "If you remove me by force for no legitimate reason, I will press criminal charges and civil charges, and I promise you, you cannot afford my legal team." "Captain's orders," Mike grunted. "You are causing a disturbance. Time to go." And then he made the catastrophic mistake. He grabbed Chloe's upper arm, his large hand wrapping completely around her bicep, his fingers digging in hard enough to leave marks. He yanked upward, hauling her out of the seat with enough force that she stumbled. Chloe cried out, the sound sharp and pained, and her phone flew from her hand. It hit the floor and skittered under the seat, sliding out of reach. Finally, Linda Harrington actually clapped, bouncing on her heels. Some proper customer service. "Get this trash off my plane." Chloe grabbed the armrest to keep from falling completely. Her bag slid off her shoulder and hit the floor. She reached for it, but Mike kicked it aside. "My phone. We will mail it to your house," Megan said, and the smile on her face was vicious. Delighted, she actually used her heel to kick Chloe's phone further under the seat. "Now get out. Move," Mike ordered, his hand still gripping her arm tight enough to bruise, pushing her toward the aircraft door. The walk down the aisle felt like walking through a nightmare. Every single face turned toward her, every passenger watching. She could see it all in their eyes. Pity from a few, disgust from others, but mostly indifference. These people did not care about justice. They just wanted the problem gone so they could get to Boston on schedule. She heard the whispers following her like ghosts. Making such a scene over a seat. Entitled generation, I swear. Probably trying to get a payout. She should have just moved when they asked nicely. Chloe felt hot tears sliding down her cheeks and hated herself for it. Hated giving them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. As Mike shoved her onto the jet bridge, the humid air hit her face like a slap. Behind her, she heard the aircraft door beginning to swing closed. It was over. She had lost. She had been humiliated, assaulted, and thrown off a plane for the crime of existing in a space someone decided she did not belong in. Mike's grip on her arm loosened slightly as they moved down the jet bridge. He was reaching for his radio, probably to call for additional security to escort her out of the terminal entirely. But then Chloe felt something. A vibration. Not from the plane, from the ground itself. Deep and powerful, growing stronger by the second. Outside the terminal windows, blue lights were flashing. And in the sky, cutting through the gray clouds like a black arrow, was a private jet. Sleek and fast and descending at an angle that was definitely not part of normal approach patterns. It had a golden bee painted on the tail. Bennett Energy Solutions. Mike stopped walking. He stared out the window, his mouth falling open. Chloe wiped her eyes with her free hand and looked at Mike. "I tried to tell you," she said quietly. "That call you interrupted. That was to my father, David Bennett, CEO of Bennett Energy Solutions, the company that supplies fuel to most of the aircraft at this airport, including this one." Mike's face went white. "And I do not think," Chloe continued, her voice getting stronger, "he is very happy with how your airline just treated his daughter." The private jet was getting closer, and now Chloe could see vehicles on the tarmac. Black SUVs with flashing lights moving fast, converging on their gate. Mike's hand dropped from Chloe's arm like she had suddenly burst into flames. "Oh, God," he whispered. "Oh, my God." Inside the aircraft in first class, Megan Thompson was pouring champagne for Linda Harrington, who had settled into the seat with a satisfied smile. "I do not know what this world is coming to," Linda was saying, accepting her glass. "These entitled young people think they can just take whatever they want. No respect, no class. Thank goodness you stood firm, Megan." "Someone has to maintain standards," Megan agreed, feeling rather pleased with herself. Then the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, and something in his tone made everyone in the cabin freeze. "Flight attendants, please report to the flight deck immediately. We have a situation. The Black Gulfstream did not land. It descended like a predator diving for prey, cutting through approach patterns, ignoring every protocol, every rule, every standard procedure that governed the carefully choreographed dance of aircraft at JFK. In the control tower, air traffic controller Sarah Lopez watched her radar screen with growing horror. "You are not cleared for that approach. Repeat, you are not cleared. Abort immediately and circle." The pilot's voice was calm, almost bored. "We have emergency authorization from Homeland Security. Check your supervisor's desk. You should have received the documentation." Sarah spun to her supervisor, who was staring at his computer screen with his mouth hanging open. "What the hell is going on?" The supervisor looked up, his face pale. "It is legitimate." The authorization came directly from the deputy director's office. "This aircraft has priority clearance over all commercial traffic. We are ordered to accommodate whatever they request." "That is insane. Who has that kind of pull?" The supervisor pointed at his screen. "David Bennett, CEO of Bennett Energy Solutions." Sarah's stomach dropped. She knew that name. Everyone in aviation knew that name. "Dear God," she whispered. "What happened?" On the tarmac, the Gulfstream's wheels hit concrete with a screech that echoed across the entire airport. It did not taxi to a private terminal. It did not follow ground control directions. It turned sharply, its engine still roaring, and drove straight across the safety zone toward the gate, toward the flight. Mike Ramirez stood frozen on the jet bridge, still staring out the window, his hand no longer touching Chloe. The color had drained completely from his face. "Miss Bennett." he said, his voice shaking. I did not know. They told me you were being disruptive. I was just following orders. You grabbed a young woman and dragged her off a plane, Chloe said quietly, rubbing her arm where his fingers had dug in. You did not ask questions. You did not check the facts. You just assumed they were telling you the truth. And I was lying. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please, I have kids. I need this job. You should have thought about that before you assaulted me. Black SUVs were racing across the tarmac now, blue lights flashing from their grills. They were not airport security vehicles. They were private, expensive, and moving with the precision of a military convoy. A Port Authority police cruiser screeched to a halt at the base of the jet bridge stairs. Two officers jumping out with hands on their holsters. Everyone freeze, Officer Garcia shouted, pointing at the SUVs. This is a restricted area. Stop your vehicles immediately. The SUVs did not slow down. They formed a perimeter around the Gulf Stream as it came to a complete stop, positioned perpendicular to the commercial plane's nose gear. If the commercial plane tried to move even a little forward, it would clip the private jet's wing. The Gulf Stream's door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Jason Cole stepped out first. He was a tall, solid man of muscle with the bearing of someone who had spent years in the military before transitioning to private security. He wore a dark suit that somehow made him look even more dangerous, and an earpiece that glinted in the afternoon light. He surveyed the scene with the calm assessment of someone who had been in actual war zones and found airport drama quaint by comparison. "Stand down, officers," Jason called out, his voice carrying easily across the tarmac. He pulled a leather wallet from his jacket and held up credentials. "Diplomatic Security Service. We have authorization from DHS for emergency extraction of a high-value individual." Officer Garcia climbed the stairs to get a better look at the credentials. His eyes widened. This is real. Call your supervisor. Call the airport director. Call the mayor if you want, but while you are making those calls, lower your weapons and step back. We are not here for you. We are here for the girl your airline just assaulted. Officer Garcia looked at his partner, Officer Lopez. They both slowly lowered their hands from their holsters. Inside the flight's cockpit, Captain Michael Rogers had been flying commercial aircraft for years. He had navigated thunderstorms over the Atlantic, landed planes with failed hydraulics, and once talked a passenger through a heart attack until paramedics could meet them at the gate. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "This is the flight," he said into his headset, his voice tight with stress. "We have an aircraft blocking our taxi path, a Gulf Stream just parked perpendicular to our nose. If I move forward, I am clipping his wing. What are my instructions?" The air traffic controller sounded as lost as he felt. First officer was staring out the windscreen, her hand frozen on the throttle. "Captain, there are armed men on the tarmac, multiple vehicles. This looks like a federal operation. Or a hijacking," Rogers muttered. He pressed the intercom button. "Flight attendants report to the cockpit immediately." Megan Thompson was in the middle of explaining to Linda Harrington why the champagne selection was superior in first class when the captain's announcement crackled overhead. Something in his tone made her stomach tighten. "Excuse me for just a moment, Mrs. Harrington," she said, forcing a smile. She walked to the cockpit and knocked. When Captain Rogers opened the door, his face was sheet white. "Megan, what exactly happened with that passenger you removed? The girl in the hoodie. She was being disruptive and refused to follow crew instructions. I had her removed for the safety and comfort of our other passengers, particularly Mrs. Harrington, who has a medical condition." "What is her name?" "Whose name?" "The passenger you removed." "What is her name?" Megan blinked. I do not know. Some young woman. Bennett, I think. Why does? Captain Rogers closed his eyes. Dear God, tell me you did not. Did not what? He pointed out the cockpit window. Look at that tail number. Look at that aircraft. Do you know who owns a Gulfstream with the registration? Megan looked, saw the sleek black jet, saw the golden bee painted on the tail. I do not. Bennett Energy Solutions, Captain Rogers said, his voice hollow. That is David Bennett's private jet, and unless I am very wrong, the girl you just had dragged off this plane is his daughter. All the blood drained from Megan's face. That is impossible. She was dressed like a homeless person. She was wearing a hoodie and sneakers. There is no way. The man who supplies fuel to most East Coast airports just landed his private jet in the middle of an active taxiway and is currently blocking our aircraft, Rogers said. So, I am going to ask you one more time. What exactly did you do to his daughter? Megan's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. On the jet bridge, Chloe watched as the Gulfstream's door fully extended its stairs. A figure appeared in the doorway, and even from this distance, even through the tears still blurring her vision, she knew him instantly. Her father, David Bennett, stood in the doorway of his jet, surveying the scene with the calm intensity of a man who had built a multi-billion-dollar empire from nothing and would burn down anyone who threatened his family. He was in his 50s but looked younger with the kind of presence that made rooms go quiet when he entered. He wore a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's cars, and his dark skin caught the afternoon light as he descended the stairs with measured, deliberate steps. He did not run. He did not rush. He walked like a man who owned the ground beneath his feet and the sky above it. Jason Cole met him at the bottom of the stairs, speaking quietly. David nodded once, his jaw tightening, and then he looked up at the jet bridge. His eyes found Chloe. For just a second, his face transformed. The CEO mask dropped, and Chloe saw raw fury mixed with relief, mixed with fear. Then the mask came back harder than before. He started walking toward the jet bridge stairs. Mr. Bennett, station manager Brian Hayes, came running across the tarmac, his tie flying over his shoulder, sweat pouring down his bald head despite the air conditioning he had just left. Mr. Bennett, please. There has been a terrible misunderstanding. David did not stop walking. Get out of my way, Brian. Sir, if we could just discuss this in my office, I am sure we can resolve. David stopped, turned, looked at Brian with eyes that could freeze helium. Your employee assaulted my daughter. Your gate agent put his hands on a young woman and physically dragged her off an aircraft. Do you understand what I am saying to you, Brian? They put their hands on my child. I was not informed of the details. I only just heard there was an incident. You have a short time to get on that plane and bring me every single person who touched my daughter, or I pull every fuel contract with Skyline Air effective immediately. Brian's face went from red to white to green. You cannot. We have contracts, legal obligations. Read the force majeure clause. Safety concerns give me unilateral termination rights. And right now, I am very concerned about the safety of my daughter on your aircraft. Brian ran for the jet bridge stairs like his life depended on it. Because it did. Inside the aircraft, Linda Harrington was getting impatient. She had settled into the seat, accepted her champagne, and was ready to be pampered for the flight. But the plane was not moving, and Megan had disappeared into the cockpit. Excuse me, she called to a passing flight attendant, a young man who looked terrified. Why are we not taking off? I have a connection in Boston. There is a situation on the tarmac, ma'am. The captain is handling it. And what kind of situation? Before the attendant could answer, Brian Hayes burst through the aircraft door like he had been shot from a cannon. His face was purple, his shirt soaked with sweat, and he was breathing like he had run a marathon. "Where is Megan Thompson?" he shouted. The cockpit door opened. Megan emerged, her face the color of spoiled milk. "Mr. Hayes, I can explain." "Shut up. Where is Mike Ramirez?" "The gate agent?" "I think he is still on the jet bridge with the passenger. Get him in here now, and you come with me." Brian grabbed Megan's arm and pulled her toward the door. "Mr. Hayes, what is going on?" Megan's voice was rising in pitch, panic creeping in. "What is going on is that you just assaulted David Bennett's daughter. What is going on is that there is a Gulf Stream blocking our aircraft and a Homeland Security team on my tarmac. What is going on is that you just cost this airline millions of dollars and me my job. Move." Linda Harrington sat up straighter. "David Bennett, the energy mogul." "Yes, Mrs. Harrington, the man whose company supplies fuel to most of the aircraft in the country. The man whose daughter you just called trash." Linda's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, spilling across her expensive coat. Brian dragged Megan onto the jet bridge where Mike was still standing, frozen, staring at Chloe and the scene unfolding on the tarmac. "Both of you, down those stairs right now," Brian ordered. "I am not going out there," Megan said, trying to pull her arm free. "That is insane. I did not do anything wrong. I was enforcing airline policy. You enforced nothing. You profiled a paying passenger. You stole her property. And you had her physically removed for no legitimate reason. Move." David Bennett had reached the base of the jet bridge stairs. He stood there, flanked by Jason and 2 other security personnel, looking up at the open door. "Bring them down," he called up, his voice carrying clearly. "All of them. Anyone who touched my daughter. Anyone who spoke to her. I want them all down here now." Brian pushed Megan toward the stairs. She stumbled, catching herself on the railing. "Mr. Bennett," Brian called out, "I am bringing them to you now. Please let us discuss this rationally." "Rationally?" David's voice was deadly quiet. "You want to discuss rationality after your employees brutalized my child? After they made her cry, after they put bruises on her arm." He looked past Brian, past Megan and Mike, and his eyes found Chloe, standing at the top of the stairs. "Come here, baby girl." Chloe moved on shaking legs, walking past Megan, past Mike, past Brian. When she reached her father, he pulled her into his arms and she finally let herself break. The tears came in great gasping sobs, all the fear and humiliation and rage pouring out. "I am sorry," she choked out. "I'm sorry. I tried not to use your name. I tried to handle it myself." "Shh. You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. You understand me." He pulled back, gently, taking her arm and pushing up her hoodie sleeve. The bruises were already forming, 4 dark marks where Mike's fingers had dug in. David's jaw muscles flexed. He looked up at Mike, who was halfway down the stairs, and the expression on his face made the gate agent stop moving entirely. "You did this," David said. It was not a question. "Aye, sir. I was told she was being aggressive. I was following protocol for removing an uncooperative passenger. She is a young woman, and you thought the appropriate response was to grab her hard enough to leave bruises. I did not mean to hurt her. They said she was a security risk. She was sitting in her seat. The seat she paid for. The seat assigned to her. How exactly was she a security risk?" Mike had no answer. David turned to Megan, who was gripping the stair railing like it was the only thing keeping her upright. And you are the one who called her trash, who told her she did not belong in first class, who stole her phone and kicked it under a seat. I never used that word. I never, Mrs. Harrington, used it in front of you. And you smiled and nodded and agreed. I have witnesses. Several passengers have already sent videos to social media. My legal team downloaded them. Megan's legs nearly gave out. Videos. Passengers recorded at least part of the incident. The one with the best angle shows you kicking my daughter's phone under the seat. Another shows Mike grabbing her arm. Another shows Mrs. Harrington calling her trash. They are all admissible in court. And they are all currently trending on social media with the hashtag boycott Skyline Air. Brian Hayes made a sound like he had been punched in the stomach. David pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. My head of communications checked. The original video already has millions of views. Skyline Air's stock price has dropped, and it is going to keep dropping until I decide whether or not I am pulling my fuel contracts. Mr. Bennett, please, Brian begged. We will fix this. We will terminate everyone involved. We will issue a public apology. That is a start, but it is not enough. David looked at Chloe, his hand gentle on her shoulder. What do you want, sweetheart? Do you want to continue this flight? Do you want to press charges? What would make this right? Chloe looked at Megan, who was crying now, mascara running down her face. Looked at Mike, who couldn't meet her eyes. Looked at Brian, who was calculating the cost of his career. I want them arrested, Chloe said, her voice steady despite the tears. I want them charged with assault, both of them. Done. David nodded to Jason, who pulled out his phone. You cannot arrest us, Megan shrieked. We work for the airline. We have immunity for actions taken in the course of our duties. You have qualified immunity for legitimate safety actions, David said. You do not have immunity for assault and battery. You do not have immunity for theft. You do not have immunity for violating civil rights laws, which prohibits discrimination in public accommodations. Would you like me to continue? The Port Authority officers who had been watching this entire exchange approached carefully. Mr. Bennett, Officer Garcia said, if your daughter wants to press charges, we can take statements and make arrests. But I need to confirm. Did these individuals physically assault her? My arm, Chloe said quietly, showing him the bruises. Mike did that, and Megan took my phone when I tried to call my father. She kicked it under the seat when I asked for it back. Officer Garcia looked at the bruises, looked at Mike, and pulled out his handcuffs. Sir, I am placing you under arrest for assault and battery. You have the right to remain silent. No, please. Mike's voice cracked. I have kids. I cannot go to jail. Please, I was just doing my job. You assaulted a young woman. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. As Mike was being cuffed, Officer Lopez approached Megan. Ma'am, you are also being placed under arrest for theft and conspiracy to commit assault. Turn around, please. Megan's legs buckled. She grabbed the stair railing to keep from falling. This is not happening. This cannot be happening. I am a flight attendant. I have worked for this airline for years. You cannot arrest me for doing my job. You stole a passenger's property and facilitated her assault. Officer Lopez said, that is not your job. Turn around. The handcuffs clicked into place, and Megan's sobs echoed across the tarmac. David turned to Brian. There is one more person who needs to come down those stairs. Brian's face went white. Who? Linda Harrington. She is the one who initiated this. She is the one who demanded my daughter's seat. She is the one who called her trash. Bring her down. Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Harrington is a valued customer. She is married to someone important in construction. I know who she is married to. I had dinner with him recently. Nice man. Terrible taste in wives. Bring her down, Brian, or the fuel embargo starts soon. Brian ran back up the stairs. Inside the aircraft, Linda Harrington had heard enough of the commotion to understand that something had gone terribly, catastrophically wrong. She had tried to sink lower in the seat, tried to become invisible. It did not work. Brian Hayes appeared in front of her, breathing hard. Mrs. Harrington, I need you to come with me. I am not going anywhere. I have sciatica. I cannot walk stairs. I demand to speak to the airline president. The man on the tarmac supplies fuel to this entire airport. If you do not come down those stairs right now, this airline goes bankrupt. Move. Linda's mouth opened and closed. But I am a valued member. I am friends with the CEO. The CEO just sent me a text telling me to give David Bennett whatever he wants. Get up now. Linda stood on shaking legs, grabbing her designer bag. As Brian led her down the aisle, she could feel every passenger's eyes on her, could hear the whispers. She is the one who started it, calling that poor girl trash. Entitled witch. Mr. Caldwell, who had been watching the whole thing with growing horror, actually took a picture of Linda as she passed. She heard the camera shutter sound and whirled on him. How dare you? Delete that immediately. No, ma'am, Caldwell said calmly. This is going in my trip report to my company. We spend a lot with Skyline Air. After watching this debacle, I'm recommending we switch carriers. Linda's face turned purple, but Brian was already pulling her toward the door. When she emerged onto the jet bridge and saw the scene below, the police cars, the armed security, the handcuffed airline employees, her knees nearly gave out. No, she whispered. No, this is insane. I did not do anything. I just wanted a better seat. That is all. Just a better seat. David Bennett looked up at her, his eyes cold as winter. Come down here, Mrs. Harrington. Let us discuss your better seat. Linda descended the stairs on trembling legs, her expensive heels clicking against the metal. When she reached the bottom, she tried to summon some of her earlier fire. I do not know who you think you are, she started. But I am a valued customer of this airline, and a personal friend of nobody who matters. David interrupted. I know exactly who you are, Linda. I know you are on your third marriage. I know your husband keeps you on a tight allowance because of your shopping addiction. I know you filed for bankruptcy years ago. I know all of it. Linda's face went from red to white. How dare you investigate me? I did not have to investigate. I made 2 phone calls, one to my head of security who did a background check while I was in the air, one to your husband, Richard. You called Richard? I told him what you did, what you called my daughter, how you acted. David pulled out his phone and played a recording. Her husband's voice came through clearly. Mr. Bennett, I am deeply sorry for my wife's behavior. I assure you she will face consequences, and I will be calling my attorney in the morning to begin divorce proceedings. I have been looking for a reason. She just gave me the perfect one. Linda swayed on her heels. No, he would not. He loves me. He is embarrassed by you. He has been embarrassed for years. But you humiliating a young woman on video that has now been seen by millions of people, that is the last straw. Congratulations, Linda. You just lost your meal ticket over a seat. Linda collapsed onto the stairs, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Officer Lopez approached. Mr. Bennett, do you want to press charges against her as well? David looked at Linda, sobbing on the stairs, her expensive coat sliding off her shoulders, her designer bag spilling its contents across the tarmac. "No," he said quietly. "She's already facing the consequences. Losing her husband, her lifestyle, her reputation. That is enough." He turned back to Chloe. "Are you okay, baby girl? Do you need a doctor?" "I am okay, Dad. Just shaken up. Do you want to continue to Boston on this flight?" Chloe looked at the flight at the passengers pressed against the windows, watching the drama unfold, looked at the first-class cabin where she had been humiliated. "No, I do not want to be anywhere near these people." "Then we are leaving. The Gulf Stream is fueled and ready. We will be in Boston before this disaster pushes back from the gate." He turned to Brian. "You have a choice to make, Brian. You can demonstrate that this airline takes passenger safety seriously by firing everyone involved and implementing new training. Or I pull the fuel contracts and you are bankrupt soon. What is it going to be?" Brian did not hesitate. "They are all terminated, effective immediately, and I will personally oversee the new training program." "Good. You have time to send me the implementation plan. If I like what I see, the contracts continue. If I do not, you are done." David put his arm around Chloe and guided her toward the Gulf Stream. As they walked, Megan's voice called out from the police car. "This is not fair. I was just doing my job. You cannot ruin my life over this." David stopped, turned, looked at her through the police car window. "You called my daughter trash. You humiliated her in front of many people. You stole her property and watched while she was assaulted. You did all of that because you looked at her clothes and decided she did not belong. And now you are facing consequences. Yes, Mrs. Thompson. Yes, I can." He and Chloe climbed the Gulf Stream stairs together. The door closed with a soft hiss, sealing out the chaos, the judgment, the cruelty. Inside, the cabin was quiet, peaceful. Everything the commercial flight should have been. Chloe sank into a cream leather seat and finally let herself breathe. Her father sat across from her, his hand reaching out to squeeze hers. "I am proud of you," he said quietly. "You stood up for yourself. You did not back down even when they tried to intimidate you." "I used your name," Chloe said. "I swore I would not." "Sometimes," David said, "standing up for yourself means using every tool you have. There is no shame in that. You tried to handle it yourself. They escalated. You responded appropriately. The Gulf Stream's engines began to power up. Outside the window, Chloe could see the flight still sitting there, blocked, grounded, its passengers watching as the private jet began to taxi. "What happens to them now?" Chloe asked. "Megan and Mike will be charged, probably plead out to misdemeanors, community service, fines. Their careers in aviation are over. Linda is losing her husband and her lifestyle. Brian might keep his job if he implements real changes. The airline will hemorrhage money until they prove they have fixed their culture. And the passengers who just watched, who did nothing." David's expression hardened. "They will live with knowing they witnessed an injustice and chose comfort over courage. That is its own punishment." The Gulf Stream lifted off, climbing fast into the gray sky. Chloe watched JFK grow smaller below them, watched the commercial aircraft sitting uselessly at the gate. For the first time in hours, she felt safe. But her father's phone was already ringing. His legal team, his PR team, the board of directors of Skyline Air. Probably the consequences were just beginning. And David Bennett was not done yet. The Gulf Stream leveled off at cruising altitude, well above commercial traffic, and Chloe finally felt her heartbeat slow to something approaching normal. She changed out of her hoodie into a soft cashmere sweater from the jet's wardrobe, and her father's personal physician, Dr. Emily Carter, who had been waiting on board, had examined her arm and applied ice packs to the bruising. "You will want to keep ice on this for the next day or so," Dr. Carter said gently, wrapping Chloe's bicep with a compression bandage. "The bruising will get worse before it gets better. Deep tissue damage like this from fingers digging in, it is going to hurt for a while." Chloe nodded, feeling numb. She had been running on adrenaline, and now that the immediate crisis was over, exhaustion was crashing over her in waves. Dr. Carter touched her shoulder. "You did nothing wrong, Chloe. Nothing. You understand that, right?" "I know," Chloe whispered, but her voice cracked on the words. Knowing it and believing it are different things. Give yourself time to process. This was traumatic. After Dr. Carter returned to her seat in the back of the cabin, David moved to sit beside his daughter. He had removed his jacket and loosened his tie. And for the first time since boarding, he looked less like a CEO and more like a father. "Talk to me, baby girl," he said quietly. "What are you thinking?" Chloe stared out the window at the clouds below. "I'm thinking about all the times this has happened before. All the times I just let it go. All the times I did not call you because I did not want to be that girl. The one who runs to daddy every time someone is mean to her. This was not someone being mean. This was assault. I know. But the other times, the times when it was just words, just looks, just people assuming I did not belong somewhere because of how I looked. Those times I just swallowed it, made myself smaller, tried harder to fit in." She turned to face him, tears welling in her eyes. "What if I just moved to another seat?" None of this would have happened. David's jaw tightened. "Do not do that. Do not blame yourself for their actions. I am not. Maybe if I had explained better, if I had been more polite." "Chloe." Her father's voice was firm. "You were polite. You showed your ticket. You explained calmly. You did everything right. And they still treated you like a criminal. Do you know why?" She shook her head. "Because no amount of politeness can fix someone else's prejudice. You could have been wearing a ball gown and speaking perfectly, and Megan Thompson still would have found a reason to believe you did not belong there. Because in her mind, someone who looks like you does not belong in first class, and that is her failure, not yours." Chloe's tears spilled over. "It is exhausting, Dad. Being constantly questioned, constantly having to prove I have a right to exist in spaces. At Harvard, in airports, in stores. I am so tired of it." David pulled her into his arms and let her cry. When she finally pulled back, wiping her eyes, he said, "I know it is exhausting. Your mother dealt with the same thing. Every boardroom she walked into, people assumed she was there to take notes, not to run the meeting. Every business dinner, they handed her a coat check ticket instead of a menu. It wore her down." Chloe's mother, Dr. Grace Bennett, had been a pioneering cardiac surgeon before her death from cancer years ago. She had been brilliant, fierce, and had taught Chloe to never apologize for taking up space. "What would Mom have done?" Chloe asked. "Today, I mean. Would she have called you?" David smiled sadly. "Your mother? She would have called me. Then she would have called the NAACP, the ACLU, the news networks, and probably the president. She did not believe in quiet dignity when facing injustice. She believed in burning the house down and building something better. I miss her. Me too, baby girl. Every single day." David's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. "It is Nathan Graves, my attorney. I need to take this." He put the phone on speaker. Nathan's smooth, calculated voice filled the cabin. "David, we have developments, multiple developments. Where would you like me to start?" "Start with the criminal charges. The district attorney's office has accepted the assault and battery charges against Mike Ramirez. He will be arraigned soon. The theft charges against Megan Thompson are also moving forward. Both are looking at misdemeanor convictions, probation, fines, community service. Neither will see jail time, but both will have criminal records." Chloe felt a small measure of satisfaction at that. "What about the civil case?" David asked. "We have drafted a lawsuit against Skyline Mahar, Megan Thompson, Mike Ramirez, and Linda Harrington. Assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of civil rights, and negligent hiring and supervision. We are asking for significant damages." Chloe's eyes widened. "That is what your suffering is worth," David said firmly. "And it is what it costs to make sure they never do this to anyone else." Nathan continued. "Skyline's legal team has already reached out. They want to settle. They are offering a settlement and a public apology." "Rejected," David said immediately. "We are not settling. This goes to trial. I want discovery. I want to see their training materials, their complaint records, every incident report filed against Megan Thompson. I want a jury to hear what happened to my daughter." "Understood. I will inform their counsel." Now, the interesting part. We have received calls from other passengers who have experienced similar treatment on Skyline Air flights in the past. All people of color. All humiliated or removed from first-class seats for questionable reasons. They want to join a class action lawsuit. David leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Set it up. Class action pattern of discrimination. I want Skyline's culture exposed. Already on it. We are also fielding media requests. Everyone wants the story. Do we give them Chloe?" "Absolutely not," Chloe said before her father could answer. "I do not want to be the face of this. I don't want my picture on the news." David looked at her. "You sure? This is your story to tell." "I am sure. I just want to go back to Harvard and forget this ever happened. We can issue a statement without using your image," Nathan suggested. "Generic enough to protect your privacy, but strong enough to control the narrative." "Do it," David said. "And Nathan, one more thing. I want a full audit of Skyline Air's board of directors. Who sits on it, what their backgrounds are, what their response to this incident tells us about the company culture. I will have that to you soon. Anything else?" "Yes. Find out if Linda Harrington has filed for any kind of restraining order or countersuit. She struck me as the type who doesn't go down quietly." Nathan laughed. A dry sound. Already done. Her attorney, correction. Her soon-to-be ex-husband's attorney, contacted us. Her husband wants to make very clear that he is divorcing Linda and does not support her actions. He has offered to testify against her if needed. "Smart man," David said. "He knows his construction company cannot afford to be associated with this." "Precisely. He is doing damage control. Linda, on the other hand, has been calling every news outlet claiming she is the victim, that you threatened her, that Chloe was actually the aggressor." Chloe's stomach turned. She is lying. She knows she is lying. "Of course she is," Nathan said. "But here's the beautiful part. We have videos from different angles showing exactly what happened. Her lies will not hold up. In fact, news outlets have already declined to run her story because they have seen the footage." David smiled grimly. "Good. Let her dig her own grave." After David ended the call, he turned to Chloe. "How are you feeling?" "Honestly angry. she admitted and scared. What if this follows me forever? What if every time someone searches my name, this comes up? It probably will, David said, and his honesty surprised her. This is going to be part of your story now. But Chloe, you get to decide what that means. Does it mean you are a victim who got humiliated on a plane? Or does it mean you are someone who stood up for yourself and changed an industry? I do not want to change an industry. I just wanted to fly to Boston. I know, but sometimes we do not get to choose our moments. They choose us. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Mr. Bennett, we have received a priority communication from the airport authority. They are asking if you will reconsider the fuel embargo. David picked up the phone to the cockpit. Tell them I will reconsider when I see termination papers for everyone involved and a comprehensive anti-discrimination training program for all Skyline Air employees. Until then, not a drop. He hung up and met Chloe's eyes. I meant what I said on the tarmac. This airline will change or it will die. There is no middle ground. Later, David's phone rang again. This time it was a number he did not recognize. He answered on speaker. Mr. Bennett, this is the CEO of Skyline Air. David's eyebrows rose. Mr. CEO, calling personally. I am surprised. I am calling to apologize directly to you and your daughter for the unconscionable treatment she received today. What happened on that aircraft is not representative of our company values, and I want you to know we are taking immediate action. What kind of action? David's voice was skeptical. Megan Thompson, Mike Ramirez, and the station manager have all been terminated. We are implementing mandatory anti-bias training for all employees starting soon. We are also creating an independent oversight committee to review passenger complaints, particularly those involving discrimination. That is a start, David said, but it is not enough. There was a pause. What would be enough, Mr. Bennett? I want a seat on that oversight committee. I want quarterly reports on discrimination complaints. I want you to hire a chief diversity officer with real power, not just a token position. And I want a public acknowledgement that your company failed my daughter and failed the other passengers who have been treated this way. Done, the CEO said without hesitation. All of it. And Mr. Bennett, I would like to offer Chloe a lifetime membership, unlimited first-class travel, and a formal written apology from me personally. Chloe shook her head vigorously at her father. My daughter does not want your miles or your membership, David said coldly. She wants to never think about your airline again. But I will accept the other terms. You have time to deliver the written apology and the implementation plan for the changes. If I like what I see, I will restore fuel services. If I do not, you can start shopping for a new fuel supplier. Understood. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to make this right. After David hung up, Chloe said, You really think they will change, or are they just panicking because you cut their fuel? Both. David admitted they are panicking now, but if we hold their feet to the fire, if we make sure the oversight is real, they might actually change. Not because they want to, but because it is expensive not to. That is cynical. That is business, baby girl. Most companies do not do the right thing because it is right. They do it because it is profitable or because not doing it is too costly. Right now, discrimination just became very, very costly for Skyline Air. Jason Cole appeared from the back of the cabin. Boss, we have got a situation. Social media is exploding. The hashtag boycott Skyline Air is trending #1. The original video has been viewed millions of times. Chloe felt sick. People are angry. Jason said, really angry. Skyline Air social media accounts are getting flooded with comments. Their stock price has dropped. And here is the interesting part. Other airlines are publicly distancing themselves from Skyline's actions and promising to review their own policies. Fear works, David said quietly. They are all terrified they are next. Chloe stood up abruptly and walked to the back of the cabin, needing space. She pulled out her phone, which Dr. Carter had retrieved from under the airplane seat before they left, and opened social media. The feed was overwhelming. Her name was not attached to the videos, but the footage was everywhere. People dissecting every moment, every word. She saw comments defending her. Comments calling Megan every name imaginable. Comments from other people of color, sharing their own stories of being profiled, questioned, removed from spaces they paid to be in. But there were other comments too. Comments saying she was overreacting, that she should have just moved, that rich people problems were not real problems, that her father's response was excessive and abusive. Those comments hurt almost as much as Megan's original words. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate at Harvard. "Taylor, just saw the video." "Holy Chloe, are you okay? Do you need me to come early?" Chloe typed back, "I am fine with my dad. See you soon." But she was not fine. She felt exposed, vulnerable, like millions of strangers were picking apart the worst moment of her life and turning it into entertainment. Another text came through. This one from an unknown number. "You entitled brat. You think you are special? Because your daddy has money? People like you make me sick. Hope you learned your lesson about making scenes." Chloe's hands started shaking. She blocked the number, but more texts came through from different numbers, both similar in tone. David appeared beside her. "What is wrong?" She showed him the messages. His face went hard. "Give me your phone." "Dad, it is just trolls. It does not matter. It matters to me. Give me your phone." She handed it over. David forwarded the messages to Nathan with a simple note. "Get restraining orders and press charges for harassment. All of them. Dad, you cannot prosecute everyone who sends a mean text. Watch me. These people think they can threaten my daughter from behind anonymous accounts. They are about to learn otherwise." He handed her phone back. "I am having Jason set up enhanced security for you. New phone number, encrypted messaging, the works. Nobody threatens my family without consequences." Chloe wanted to argue that it was overkill. But another part of her, the part that was still shaking from reading those messages, was grateful. "What if it never stops?" she asked quietly. "What if I am always going to be known as that girl from the airplane video?" "Then you become someone else too," David said. "You finish Harvard. You go to law school like you have been planning. You become the attorney who fights for people who cannot fight for themselves. You turn this into fuel instead of letting it burn you down. Like Mom would have done. Exactly like Mom would have done." Later, the Gulf Stream began its descent into Boston's Logan International Airport. Chloe had tried to sleep but could not. Her mind racing with everything that had happened, everything that was still happening. David's phone had barely stopped ringing. Calls from board members of other companies he sat on, all wanting to know his version of events. Calls from friends, from business associates, from people Chloe had never heard of, all weighing in. The plane touched down smoothly, and as they taxied to the private terminal, Chloe could see news vans waiting near the fence. "They found out we were coming," Jason said grimly. "Must have tracked the flight number." "Can we avoid them?" Chloe asked. "We have a car waiting at the private terminal. They cannot get past security there." "But Chloe, you should know this story is international news now. It is not just American outlets. Major networks are covering it." Chloe closed her eyes. "Great. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted." When they disembarked, there was indeed a black Range Rover waiting on the tarmac. its windows tinted dark. Jason and two other security personnel formed a barrier around Chloe and David as they walked to the vehicle. A reporter with a telephoto lens was shouting questions from beyond the security fence. Chloe Bennett, how do you feel about Skyline's apology? Mr. Bennett, are you really going to bankrupt the airline? Chloe, do you think Megan Thompson deserves to go to jail? Jason opened the car door and Chloe slipped inside quickly, her father right behind her. As the Range Rover pulled away from the airport, Chloe finally let herself relax slightly. The driver, a stern-faced woman who had worked for the Bennett family for years, met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Good to see you, Miss Chloe. I have your favorite hot chocolate with extra marshmallows in the cup holder. Chloe felt tears prick her eyes at the small kindness. Thanks. The drive to Chloe's apartment near Harvard took time. David had offered to get her a hotel for the night, somewhere more secure. But Chloe insisted she wanted to be in her own space, with her own things. When they pulled up to her building, a modest converted townhouse split into student apartments. There was a small crowd of reporters on the sidewalk. How did they find my address? Chloe's voice rose in panic. Public record, Jason said grimly. University housing database. It is not hard to find. I cannot go in there. They will swarm me. David pulled out his phone. Give me time. He made calls. The first to the local police reporting harassment of a student. The second to the university dean, who apparently owed David a favor from a donation made years ago. The third to a private security company. Soon, police cars arrived and began dispersing the reporters, citing public disturbance laws. A university security officer appeared to escort Chloe to her door, and a private security guard was posted outside her building for the foreseeable future. Chloe finally made it inside her apartment, David and Jason sweeping the space to make sure it was secure before letting her settle in. Her roommate Taylor burst through the door, her arms full of grocery bags. I bought every comfort food I could think of, Taylor announced, dumping ice cream, chocolate, and chips on the kitchen counter. Ice cream, 3 kinds. Chocolate, 5 kinds. Chips, both kinds. And wine, because we are in Massachusetts and it is legal. Chloe hugged her friend tightly. You did not have to do all this. Are you kidding? My roommate just broke the internet. Of course I did all this. Taylor pulled back, her face serious. But really, Chloe, are you okay? I do not know, Chloe admitted. Ask me in a while. David pulled Chloe aside. I need to fly back to New York soon. Crisis management, board meetings, the whole thing. But Jason is staying here with you. So is the driver. And I am a phone call away anytime. Understand? I know, Dad. Thank you for everything. You do not thank me for protecting you. That is my job. That is my privilege. He kissed her forehead. I love you, baby girl, and I am proud of you. After her father left, Chloe and Taylor settled on the couch with ice cream and turned on the TV. The news was running the story as their lead. An American college student was forcibly removed from a first-class airplane seat in what witnesses are calling a clear case of racial profiling. The incident, which was captured on video by multiple passengers, has sparked international outrage and calls for airline industry reform. The footage played. Chloe watched herself, small and scared in her hoodie, trying to explain to Megan that she had paid for the seat. Watched Mike grab her arm, watched herself cry. It was surreal seeing her worst moment played back like this, analyzed by strangers who knew nothing about her. The passenger has been identified as the daughter of billionaire David Bennett, the reporter continued. Mr. Bennett responded by landing his private jet on the tarmac and blocking the commercial aircraft from departing. He has since cut fuel supplies to the airline, threatening its financial viability. The story cut to an interview with the Skyline Air CEO, looking pale and shaken. We deeply regret this incident and have taken immediate action to terminate the employees involved. We are committed to ensuring this never happens again. Then, the story showed clips from social media, people sharing their own experiences of discrimination in airports, on planes, in first-class cabins. I was told I needed to show multiple forms of ID to prove I could afford my ticket. One woman said, "Security pulled me aside and searched my bags, while white passengers walked right through." A black man shared, "They asked if I was the nanny for my own children." An Asian woman said, tears in her eyes. Chloe felt her chest tighten. This was not just about her anymore. This had become something bigger, something she never intended. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. But this one was different. "Thank you for not backing down. My daughter is young. I want her to grow up in a world where she does not have to prove she belongs everywhere she goes. You are helping create that world." "Thank you." Chloe showed the text to Taylor, who squeezed her hand. "See, you did something good today, even if it does not feel like it." But Chloe was not sure. She felt tired, scared, and exposed. She felt like her privacy had been ripped away, like she had lost control of her own story. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Nathan Graves. "Chloe, I need to inform you of something. Linda Harrington has filed a defamation lawsuit against you and your father, claiming you ruined her reputation and destroyed her marriage. She is asking for damages." Chloe's ice cream slipped from her hand, splattering across the floor. "She is suing me?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "After everything she did, she is suing me." "It is a nuisance suit," Nathan said calmly. "It will get thrown out in the first hearing. But I wanted you to know before you saw it on the news." "This is never gonna end, is it?" Chloe asked. "This is gonna follow me forever." "For a while, yes," Nathan said honestly. "But Chloe, you are on the right side of this. Truth is on your side. Justice is on your side. That matters." After she hung up, Chloe sat on her couch, surrounded by melting ice cream and concerned friends, and wondered if standing up for herself had been worth it. Her phone buzzed one more time. Her father just heard about Linda's lawsuit. "Do not worry about it. I am going to destroy her in court and enjoy every second of it. Love you. Get some sleep." Despite everything, Chloe smiled. Maybe, just maybe, this would be worth it after all. Chloe did not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Megan's sneer, felt Mike's fingers digging into her arm, heard Linda's voice calling her trash. By the early morning, she gave up and sat at her desk, staring at her laptop screen. The emails had started arriving. Hundreds of them. Her Harvard email account, which she had foolishly thought was private, had somehow been discovered and shared across social media. Most of the emails were supportive, people sharing their own stories, thanking her for speaking up, calling her brave, but scattered among them were the other kind. The threats, the slurs, the detailed descriptions of violence people wanted to inflict on her for being entitled, for being privileged, for daring to make a scene over something as trivial as a seat. You should be grateful they even let you on the plane. One email read, "Your kind used to have to sit in the back of the bus. Now you are crying because you cannot have the front row. Pathetic." Chloe's hands shook as she read it. She wanted to close the laptop, to pretend she had not seen it. But something made her keep reading. She needed to understand the depth of the hatred, needed to know what she was facing. Another email, this one with an attachment. She almost did not open it, but curiosity won. It was a photoshopped image of her face on a wanted poster, with the caption, Spoiled brat who ruins lives for attention. She slammed the laptop closed and stood up, pacing her small bedroom. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from her father. Cannot sleep either. Want to talk. She called him immediately. Hey, baby girl. David's voice was tired but warm. How bad is it? Pretty bad. Someone found my school email. I have gotten hundreds of messages. Most are nice, but the ones that are not are really creative with their hatred. Send them all to Nathan. Every single one. We are building a case for ongoing harassment. Dad, you cannot sue everyone who sends me a mean email. That is literally impossible. Watch me try. There was steel in his voice. Chloe, these people think they can hide behind anonymity and terrorize you. They are about to learn that digital footprints are permanent and lawyers are expensive. Chloe sat on her bed, drawing her knees to her chest. Is Mom looking down on this, thinking I'm handling it all wrong? Your mother would be organizing a protest outside Skyline Air headquarters and probably chaining herself to their corporate jet. You are handling this with much more grace than she would have. That made Chloe smile despite everything. Listen, David continued, I got a call from a morning show. They want you on the show. Live interview, your chance to tell your story in your own words. Absolutely not. Hear me out. Right now, other people are controlling the narrative. Skyline Air is spinning this as an unfortunate misunderstanding. Linda Harrington is giving interviews claiming she is the victim. Megan Thompson's lawyer released a statement saying she was just doing her job. You need to take back your voice. I do not want to be famous. I do not want to be the face of airline discrimination. I just want to finish my degree and move on with my life. I know, but that is not an option anymore. The story is out there. You can either shape it or let other people shape it for you. Chloe pressed her palms against her eyes. I need to think about it. Take your time. But Chloe, they are going to keep defining you until you define yourself. After they hung up, Chloe opened her laptop again. This time, she went to a video platform where someone had compiled every video from the incident into a timeline. She forced herself to watch. It started with her approaching the gate, Emily dismissing her, then boarding the plane, Megan's transformation from sweet to cruel, the confrontation, Linda's arrival, the escalation, Mike grabbing her, the whole horrible progression. The video had millions of views. Millions of people had watched her worst moment. The comment section was a war zone. This is what systemic racism looks like. It is not always burning crosses. Sometimes it is a flight attendant who assumes a black girl cannot afford first class. She is acting entitled because her daddy has money. This has nothing to do with race and everything to do with her being a spoiled brat. Notice how she immediately played the victim and called her rich father. She knew exactly what she was doing. Y'all really blaming a college student for getting assaulted on an airplane? The mental gymnastics are Olympic level. Chloe closed the comments and went to social media where things were somehow worse. The hashtag boycott Skyline Air was still trending, but so was a new one. Privileged princess. She clicked on it and immediately regretted it. Chloe Bennett crying about her first-class seat while people are homeless. Rich people problems are not real problems. Her father literally threatened to bankrupt an entire airline, putting thousands of jobs at risk because his daughter could not handle being told no. That is the definition of privilege. She could have just moved to another seat. Instead, she caused an incident. This generation is so dramatic. Each post was a small knife, and there were thousands of them. A knock on her bedroom door made her jump. Taylor poked her head in. You are still awake. I heard you pacing. Want some tea? They sat in the small kitchen, mugs of chamomile warming their hands. And Taylor said, You know you are allowed to stop reading what people say about you, right? You are allowed to just ignore all of it. I cannot. I need to know what they are thinking, what they are saying. No, you think you need to know. But Chloe, these people do not know you. Their opinions are based on a video and their own biases. Why does that matter? Because it is everywhere. Because when people search my name, this is what they will find. Because I am going to apply for internships and law schools and jobs, and this will follow me forever. Taylor set down her mug and took Chloe's hands. Then make it follow you as something positive. You stood up for yourself. You did not back down when powerful people tried to intimidate you. That is not a weakness, Chloe. That is a strength. Tell that to the people calling me a privileged princess. Those people were going to hate you no matter what you did. If you had moved, they would have called you weak. If you had fought back differently, they would have called you aggressive. You cannot win with people who have already decided you are the villain. Chloe knew Taylor was right, but it did not make the comments hurt less. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Linda Harrington's defamation lawsuit was thrown out. Judge called it frivolous and sanctioned her attorney for wasting the court's time. She now owes legal fees. Chloe showed the text to Taylor, who let out a whoop. See, Justice? Sweet, sweet justice. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Chloe's stomach clenched, expecting another threat, but this one was different. Hi, Chloe. My name is Jennifer Torres. I was on your flight. I watched everything that happened, and I did not say anything to help you. I am sorry. I am a coward, but I want you to know I gave a statement to your lawyer detailing everything I saw. I hope it helps. You deserve better from all of us. Chloe felt tears burning her eyes. She showed Taylor the text. That is huge, Taylor said. That is someone taking accountability. Chloe typed back, thank you for the statement, and you are not a coward. Speaking up is hard. I appreciate your honesty. Over the next time, more texts came through, all from passengers on the flight, all apologizing for not intervening, all offering to testify if needed. Mr. Caldwell, the businessman, sent a particularly detailed message. Miss Bennett, I told you to just move. I was wrong. I prioritized my own comfort over your rights. I have given a full statement to the authorities, and I will testify in any legal proceedings. I am also writing to the Harvard Dean of Students to commend your character. What those employees did was unconscionable. What I did, staying silent, was almost as bad. I am sorry. Chloe read the message multiple times, feeling something shift in her chest. These people, strangers who had watched her humiliation, were choosing to stand with her now. Maybe she was not as alone as she thought. By morning, Chloe had made a decision. She called her father. I will do the interview. The morning show or whoever, but on my terms. I want to talk about the systemic issues, not just my story. I want to talk about the other passengers who have experienced this. And I want to announce that I am using any money from the lawsuit to create a legal fund for people who have been discriminated against in travel, but cannot afford to fight back. David was quiet for a moment. That is very mature of you and very much like your mother. Is that a yes? That is a hell yes. I will have Nathan coordinate with the show. They will send a crew to Harvard soon. Soon? That is so soon. Strike while the iron is hot, baby girl. Right now, you have the world's attention. Use it. After hanging up, Chloe spent the day preparing. She wrote notes about what she wanted to say, practiced answers to questions she anticipated. Taylor helped her pick out an outfit, something professional but approachable. You need to look like yourself, Taylor said, holding up a blue blazer. Not like you are trying to be someone you are not. authentic. Chloe, the girl who volunteers at legal clinics and stays up late helping me with my homework. Jason arrived that evening to discuss security for the interview. The shoot will be at the university library, neutral territory. We will have security personnel positioned around the perimeter. No one gets close to you except the interviewer and the camera crew, all of whom will be vetted. This feels like overkill, Chloe said. You have received credible threats, Jason said bluntly. This is not overkill. This is barely adequate. Chloe's blood ran cold. Your father did not want you to know the full number. But yes, most are just keyboard warriors who will not do anything. But it only takes one who will, so we are being careful. That night, Chloe could not eat. Her stomach was in knots thinking about the interview, about what she would say, about how the world would respond. Taylor ordered pizza anyway and forced her to eat. You need energy. Tomorrow, you are going to tell millions of people that you refuse to be invisible. That requires calories. Later, Nathan called with news. The class action lawsuit now has many plaintiffs, people who have been discriminated against on Skyline Air flights. We have documentation for all of it. This is going to be a major airline discrimination case. That many people, Chloe felt sick. This has been happening to that many people and nobody did anything. They did what most people do when institutions hurt them. They complained quietly, got ignored, and moved on with their lives. You are the first person who had the resources and the platform to fight back effectively. That is why this matters, Chloe. You are not just fighting for yourself. After the call ended, Chloe sat at her desk and opened her laptop one more time. She went back to the video, but this time she did not read the comments. Instead, she watched herself. Really watched. She saw a scared college student trying to remain calm in the face of injustice. She saw someone who could have screamed, could have made a scene, but instead tried to reason with people who refused to listen. She saw someone who only called for help when she was being physically assaulted. And for the first time, she felt proud of that girl in the hoodie. The next morning dawned gray and drizzly. Typical New England weather. The morning show crew arrived, professional and efficient. The interviewer was a respected journalist with a reputation for tough but fair interviews. They sat up in one of Harvard's historic libraries, surrounded by centuries-old books and Gothic architecture. Chloe sat in a leather chair across from the interviewer, her hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. "We are live soon," a producer called out. Jason stood just off camera, his presence reassuring. The interviewer leaned forward and spoke quietly just for Chloe. "I have watched the video. What happened to you was wrong. Just tell the truth and you will be fine." Then the cameras were on and the interviewer's professional smile was in place. "We are here at Harvard University with Chloe Bennett, the college student at the center of what many are calling the airline discrimination incident that sparked international outrage. Chloe, thank you for talking with us. Thank you for having me," Chloe said, and was relieved. Her voice came out steady. "Let us start with what happened. In your own words, take us through that day." Chloe took a breath and began. She described arriving at the airport, the gate agent's dismissal, boarding the plane, Megan's transformation, Linda's demands. She did not dramatize. She did not embellish. She just told the truth. When she got to the part about Mike grabbing her arm, her voice wavered slightly. I cried out because it hurt. He was a large man, and I am small. And I was scared. I have never been physically removed from anywhere. I kept thinking, what if they actually arrest me? What if I end up in jail because I would not give up a seat I paid for? Your father's response was dramatic, the interviewer said carefully, landing his private jet, blocking the commercial aircraft. cutting fuel supplies. Some people have criticized that as an overreaction. What do you say to that? Chloe had prepared for this question. My father is protective, and I understand why people might see his response as extreme. But here is what I would ask those people. What would you do if someone assaulted your child? If someone put bruises on your daughter's arm and humiliated her in front of many people? Would you just accept an apology and move on? Or would you demand accountability? But threatening an entire airline, potentially costing thousands of jobs, he did not threaten the airline. He gave them a choice. Change your discriminatory practices or lose a fuel supplier. They chose to change. That is not a threat. That is consequences for bad behavior. The interviewer nodded, clearly impressed with the answer. You have announced you are creating a legal fund for people who have experienced discrimination in travel. Tell us about that. The only reason I could fight back is because my father has resources. Money for lawyers, money for security, the ability to make phone calls that get answered. But most people who experience what I experienced do not have those resources. They get humiliated, they get hurt, and they have no recourse. This fund will provide legal representation for anyone who has been discriminated against in airports, on planes, in travel spaces. Because everyone deserves to travel with dignity, not just people who can afford expensive lawyers. That is a powerful mission. How much are you funding it with? Any money I receive from the lawsuit against Skyline Air will go directly into the fund. My attorney estimates that could be significant. The interviewer's eyebrows rose. That is significant. And you are giving it all away. I do not want profit from my pain. I want change. If my experience can help other people fight back, then maybe it was worth it. You have received death threats, harassment, been called privileged and entitled on social media. How do you respond to people who say you are making this about race when it is really about you being a spoiled rich kid who could not handle being told no? Chloe felt anger flash through her but kept her voice level. I would ask those people a simple question. Would Megan Thompson have treated me that way if I were white? If I had walked onto that plane in a hoodie and sneakers, but I had blonde hair and blue eyes, would she have assumed I did not belong in first class? Would she have demanded to see my ticket multiple times? Would she have called security to physically remove me? I do not think so. And the fact that people want to ignore the racial component of this tells me exactly why this conversation is necessary. The interviewer leaned back, a small smile on her face. You are a college student, and you are remarkably articulate about systemic racism. Where does that come from? My mother, she was a cardiac surgeon, one of the first black women to run a cardiac unit at a major hospital. She dealt with people assuming she was a nurse, or a cafeteria worker, or anyone except the doctor in charge. She taught me that these assumptions are not accidents. They are the result of deeply ingrained biases. And she taught me that staying silent in the face of injustice is the same as endorsing it. Your mother passed away years ago. Is that right? Chloe nodded, feeling emotion rising in her throat. What would she think of how you have handled this? Chloe smiled through sudden tears. She would probably say I should have made more noise. My mom did not believe in quiet dignity. She believed in loud, unapologetic resistance. So, honestly, she would probably think I'm being too soft. The interviewer laughed. I would have liked to meet your mother. Last question, Chloe. What do you want people to take away from your story? Chloe looked directly at the camera, thinking of all the people watching, all the people who had sent her hate, all the people who had sent her support, all the people fighting their own battles against discrimination. I want people to understand that discrimination is not always dramatic. It is not always burning crosses and slurs shouted in the street. Sometimes it is a flight attendant who looks at you and decides you do not belong. Sometimes it is a gate agent who assumes your ticket must be fake. Sometimes it is 1,000 small moments where people make you feel like you are taking up space you have not earned. And I want people to know that you do not have to accept it. You do not have to make yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. You have a right to exist in every space you have paid to be in, and you have a right to dignity. The interview wrapped and the crew began packing up their equipment. The interviewer approached Chloe privately. "That was one of the best interviews I've done in years. You are going to change a lot of minds today, or make a lot of people angrier," Chloe said. "Probably both. But that is how change happens. It is messy and uncomfortable and it makes people angry. But you keep pushing anyway." Jason escorted Chloe back to her apartment where Taylor was waiting with breakfast and an iPad showing the live reaction on social media. "It is blowing up," Taylor said, "in a good way. People are praising you, sharing clips, talking about their own experiences." Chloe took the iPad and scrolled through social media. The responses were overwhelming. She handled that perfectly. Calm, articulate, made every point without being aggressive. The way she honored her mother made me cry. This girl is special. I have been a flight attendant for years, and I am ashamed of what Megan did. Chloe is right. This is about bias, and it needs to change. But there were still the other comments, the ones calling her a liar, a race baiter, an attention seeker. Chloe had learned to expect those. Her phone rang. Her father. "You were perfect. Absolutely perfect. Your mother would be so proud." "Thanks, Dad." It was terrifying. The best things usually are. "Listen, I have news. Skyline Air just announced they are settling the class action lawsuit. Many plaintiffs, a large settlement total, plus mandatory anti-discrimination training for all employees, and an independent oversight committee." Chloe sat down hard. "Your portion, based on the severity of your case, will be substantial, which you are donating to the legal fund as promised. That is going to help so many people. It already is. Nathan says he has received many applications for the fund, people who have been waiting years for someone to help them fight back." After hanging up, Chloe looked at Taylor, who was grinning ear to ear. "You just changed the world, Chloe Bennett. I just told the truth." "Same thing," Taylor said. That night, Chloe finally slept. Not peacefully. She still had nightmares about hands grabbing her, voices calling her names. But she slept knowing she had done something that mattered. And tomorrow, she would wake up and keep fighting because that is what her mother would have done. Months passed in a blur of legal proceedings, media attention, and Chloe trying desperately to return to some semblance of normal life. But normal, she was learning, was a luxury she no longer had. She was sitting in her Harvard Library carrel, attempting to focus on a constitutional law essay, when her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Criminal trial starts soon. Mike Ramirez and Megan Thompson both pleading not guilty. You need to be there to testify." Chloe's stomach dropped. She had been dreading this moment, knowing it was coming, but hoping somehow it would not. The thought of facing them again, of reliving that day in front of a courtroom full of strangers, made her feel physically ill. She called her father immediately. "I cannot do it," she said without preamble. "I cannot sit in a courtroom and face them. I cannot do it, Dad." "Yes, you can," David said gently, "and you will. Because if you do not, they walk away with a slap on the wrist and do this to someone else. They have already lost their jobs. Their reputations are destroyed. Is that enough? No. Because jobs can be replaced and reputations can be rebuilt. But a criminal conviction, that is permanent. That sends a message that you cannot assault passengers and get away with it. Chloe knew he was right, but knowing did not make it easier. "Will you be there?" she asked quietly. "I will be in the front row. Jason will be there. Nathan will be there. You will not be alone, baby girl. I promise." The flight back to New York that weekend felt surreal. Chloe was flying commercial again, first class on another airline this time. The flight attendants recognized her immediately, their eyes widening when she boarded. But instead of judgment or hostility, she received something entirely different. Miss Bennett, the head flight attendant, an older black woman named Gloria, said quietly as Chloe settled into her seat, "I just want to say thank you. What you did standing up like that, it has made things better for all of us. Management actually listens now when we report discrimination. We have new protocols. So, thank you." Chloe felt tears prick her eyes. "I did not do it to be a hero. I just wanted my seat. The best heroes never set out to be heroes," Gloria said with a smile. "They just refuse to accept injustice. That is exactly what you did." The flight was smooth, uneventful, and when Chloe deplaned at JFK, her father was waiting at the gate with open arms. "Ready for this?" he asked. "No, but I am doing it anyway." They drove to the courthouse early, and Chloe was shocked by the crowd. News vans lined the street, reporters jostling for position behind police barricades. A group of protesters held signs reading "Justice for Chloe" and "Airlines are not above the law." But there was also a smaller counter-protest group with signs that made Chloe's blood run cold. "Spoiled rich girl ruins lives, and Megan Thompson is the real victim." Jason hustled Chloe through a side entrance, avoiding the crowds, but she had seen enough. Inside the courtroom, Chloe sat in the witness waiting room, her hands clenched together to stop their shaking. Nathan sat beside her, reviewing her testimony. "Just tell the truth," he said. "Do not embellish. Do not minimize. Just describe what happened in your own words. What if I freeze? What if I start crying?" "Then you freeze and cry. The jury needs to see the real impact of what they did. You are not performing, Chloe. You are testifying." When her name was called, Chloe stood on legs that felt like water. Her father squeezed her hand as she passed. "You have got this," he whispered. The courtroom was packed. Chloe saw journalists with notepads, sketch artists, and a sea of unfamiliar faces. And there at the defense table sat Megan Thompson and Mike Ramirez, both in conservative suits, both looking significantly less confident than they had on that airplane. Megan's eyes met Chloe's for just a second, and Chloe saw something there. Fear. Regret. Maybe. Or maybe just fear of consequences. Mike would not look at her at all. Chloe was sworn in and took her seat in the witness box. The prosecutor, a sharp woman, approached with a kind smile. "Miss Bennett, can you tell the jury what happened when you attempted to board the Skyline Air flight?" Chloe took a breath and began. She described every moment, every word, every feeling. When she got to the part about Mike grabbing her arm, her voice broke. "He grabbed me here," she said, touching her upper arm hard enough that I could feel his fingers digging into the bone. I cried out because it hurt, and because I was scared. I had never been manhandled like that. I did not know what was happening or why it was happening to me. "Did you resist?" the prosecutor asked. "No, I was too shocked, too scared. I just let him pull me out of my seat because I thought if I fought back, it would get worse." "What happened to your phone?" Chloe's jaw tightened. I'd been on a call with my father trying to get help. When Mike grabbed me, I dropped it. The flight attendant, Miss Thompson, she kicked it under the seat. When I asked for it back, she said they would mail it to me. She smiled when she said that. Megan's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection, Your Honor. The witness is characterizing my client's emotional state. I will allow it, the judge said. The witness can describe what she observed. Continue, Miss Bennett. Chloe looked directly at Megan. She smiled like she was enjoying humiliating me, like she had won something. The questioning continued. The prosecutor walked Chloe through every detail, entered the videos into evidence, showed the photographs of Chloe's bruised arm taken by Dr. Carter on the Gulf Stream. Then came cross-examination. Megan's lawyer, a slick man, approached with a condescending smile that made Chloe's skin crawl. Miss Bennett, you are very wealthy, are you not? My father is wealthy. I am a college student. But you benefit from that wealth, do you not? You attend Harvard University, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. You fly first class regularly. You have private security. I have private security now because of this incident. And yes, I am privileged financially. That does not mean I deserve to be assaulted. Assaulted is a strong word, do you not think? My client simply escorted you off the aircraft per the flight attendant's instructions. Your client grabbed me hard enough to leave bruises and drag me down the aisle while I was crying. If that is not assault, what is? The lawyer's smile faltered slightly. You called your father immediately when things did not go your way, did you not? I called my father when a flight attendant stole my phone and had me physically removed from a seat I paid for. Yes, and your father responded by essentially holding an entire airport hostage, did he not? Landing his private jet illegally, blocking aircraft, threatening to bankrupt an airline. Nathan stood up. Objection. Relevance. Mr. Bennett's actions are not on trial here. Sustained. The judge said, move on. The lawyer tried several more angles, attempting to paint Chloe as entitled, dramatic, someone who escalated the situation unnecessarily. But every answer Chloe gave was calm, factual, and devastatingly credible. Finally, the lawyer made a fatal mistake. Is it not true, Miss Bennett, that you could have avoided this entire incident by simply moving to another seat? Chloe leaned forward slightly. Is it not true that Miss Thompson could have avoided this entire incident by not profiling me based on my appearance, by not assuming I did not belong in first class because I was wearing a hoodie, by treating me like every other paying passenger instead of like a criminal? The courtroom went silent. Even the lawyer seemed at a loss for words. No further questions, he muttered, returning to his seat. Mike's lawyer did not even attempt to cross-examine. Chloe was dismissed. As she walked past the defense table, Megan suddenly spoke, her voice breaking. I am sorry. I am so sorry, Chloe. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Chloe stopped, looked at her, saw tears streaming down Megan's face. For a moment, Chloe felt something that might have been compassion. Megan had lost everything. Her career, her reputation, and now, possibly, her freedom. But then Chloe remembered the smile, the casual cruelty, the way Megan had kicked her phone under the seat. You are not sorry you did it, Chloe said quietly. You are sorry you got caught. She walked out of the courtroom without looking back. The trial continued. Other witnesses testified. The passengers who had recorded videos. Mr. Caldwell, who looked ashamed as he described watching the assault and doing nothing. The gate agent, Emily, who admitted she had profiled Chloe based on her clothing. Then came the shocking testimony. A former Skyline Air flight attendant took the stand and revealed that Megan Thompson had a documented history of discriminatory behavior. Separate complaints filed by passengers of color, all dismissed by management as misunderstandings. The company protected her. the former attendant said, her voice shaking with anger. We all knew Megan had issues with black passengers, with Latino passengers, with anyone who did not look like her ideal of first class, but she was good at her job otherwise. So they looked the other way. Why are you coming forward now? The prosecutor asked. Because I am ashamed I did not come forward sooner, because Chloe Bennett had the courage to fight back. And I should have had the courage to speak up. Better late than never. The revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. This was not an isolated incident. This was a pattern. The prosecutor immediately moved to introduce evidence of prior bad acts, and the judge allowed it over vigorous objections from the defense. By the time closing arguments came, the case was no longer about whether Mike and Megan had committed assault. It was about whether a system that enabled and protected discrimination would finally face consequences. The jury deliberated. Chloe sat in a conference room with her father, Nathan, and Jason, unable to eat, unable to focus on anything except the clock on the wall. What if they are acquitted? She asked. What if the jury decides I was overreacting? Then we appeal, David said firmly, and we keep fighting until we get justice. But Chloe could not shake the fear that all of this, the testimony, the media attention, the exposure of her worst moment would be for nothing. Finally, the jury sent word they had reached a verdict. The courtroom filled quickly. Chloe sat in the front row, her father's hand gripping hers so tightly it almost hurt. The jury filed in, their faces unreadable. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. Chloe's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might burst through her chest, on the charge of assault and battery against defendant Mike Ramirez. How do you find? Guilty, Your Honor. Chloe felt her knees go weak even though she was sitting down. On the charge of theft and conspiracy to commit assault against defendant Megan Thompson, how do you find? Guilty, Your Honor. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed out to file stories. Megan Thompson collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Mike Ramirez sat frozen, his face gray. Chloe just breathed. In and out. In and out. Justice. Finally, justice. Sentencing came later. Mike Ramirez received months in jail, probation, and hours of community service. Megan Thompson received months in jail probation and was ordered to complete anti-bias training and speak at airline industry conferences about the consequences of discrimination. But the real victory came in the judge's statement. This case represents a turning point, the judge said, her voice carrying through the silent courtroom. For too long, we have treated discrimination in public accommodations as a minor inconvenience rather than the civil rights violation it is. Miss Bennett's courage in standing up for herself has exposed systematic failures in how we train, supervise, and hold accountable those who serve the public. Let this verdict send a clear message. Discrimination will not be tolerated, and those who engage in it will face real consequences. Chloe cried then, not tears of sadness, but of relief so profound it felt like something breaking open inside her chest. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. But this time, Chloe was ready. She stood at the microphone with her father beside her, Jason and Nathan flanking her, and she spoke with a voice that did not shake. This verdict is not just about me. It is about the other plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit. It is about every person of color who has been told they do not belong in spaces they have paid to be in. It is about changing a system that has been broken for far too long. What is next for you, Chloe? A reporter called out. I am going back to Harvard to finish my degree, then law school. I am going to spend my career fighting for people who cannot fight for themselves because everyone deserves dignity, everyone deserves justice, and everyone deserves to travel without fear of being profiled or assaulted. Do you forgive Megan Thompson and Mike Ramirez? Chloe paused, considering the question. I am not sure forgiveness is mine to give. They did not just hurt me. They hurt everyone who has ever been made to feel less than because of how they look. But I hope they learn from this. I hope they become better people. And I hope this never happens to anyone else. Months later, Chloe returned to JFK Airport for the first time since the incident. She was flying to a conference where she had been invited to speak about the legal fund she had established, which had already helped many people pursue discrimination cases. She approached the gate with the old, familiar anxiety creeping up her spine. But this time was different. The gate agent, a young South Asian woman, looked up and smiled warmly. Miss Bennett, welcome. Your seat is ready in first class, and I just want to say thank you. My cousin was discriminated against on a flight last year, and your legal fund helped her fight back. You are changing lives. Chloe felt tears prick her eyes, just trying to make things better. She boarded the plane, and the flight attendant greeting passengers stopped mid-sentence when she saw Chloe. It was Gloria, the flight attendant from her earlier flight. Chloe, Gloria said warmly. I transferred to this route specifically hoping to serve you one day. Welcome aboard. Chloe settled into seat 1A, the same seat that had started everything. But this time, there was no hostility, no judgment, just respect. As the plane pushed back from the gate, Chloe looked out of the window at the tarmac below. She thought about that day months ago, about how terrified she had been, about how small she had felt. She was not small anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Proud of you every single day. Your mother would be too. Go change the world, baby girl. Chloe smiled, typed back a heart emoji, and opened her laptop. She had a speech to write, a legal brief to review, and a dozen emails from people asking for help with their own discrimination cases. The work was never ending. The fight was exhausting, but it was also necessary, meaningful, and exactly what she was meant to do. On the seat beside her, another passenger settled in, a young black girl wearing a hoodie and clutching a backpack. The flight attendant approached and smiled at the girl. Welcome aboard. Can I get you something to drink? No judgment, no profiling, just service. The girl looked surprised, then relieved. Water, please. Of course. And if you need anything during the flight, just let me know. After the flight attendant left, the girl looked at Chloe. Is it always like this now? People just being normal? Chloe smiled. It is getting better. Not perfect, but better. And we keep fighting until normal is the baseline, not the exception. Are you Chloe Bennett? The girl asked suddenly from the video. Yeah, that is me. You are my hero. I was scared to fly alone because I thought, they would treat me like I did not belong. But then I saw what you did and I thought, if she can stand up to them, so can I. Chloe felt her throat tighten with emotion. What is your name? Destiny. I am flying to a science competition. Full scholarship. That is amazing, Destiny. And you know what? You belong on this plane. You belong in first class. You belong anywhere your dreams take you. Do not let anyone tell you different. Destiny grinned. I will not because of you. I will not. As the plane climbed into the sky, Chloe looked out at the clouds and felt something she had not felt in months. Peace. She had been humiliated, assaulted, threatened, and dragged through the most traumatic experience of her life. But she had survived. More than survived. She had fought back, won, and changed an entire industry in the process. Her mother had taught her that staying silent in the face of injustice was the same as endorsing it. Chloe had not stayed silent, and because she had spoken up, girls like Destiny could travel without fear. People like the plaintiffs her legal fund had helped could fight back against discrimination. Airlines across the country had implemented new training, new protocols, new accountability measures. None of it erased what had happened to her. The nightmare still came sometimes. The anxiety still spiked when she walked onto planes. The scars, both physical and emotional, were permanent, but so was the change she had created. Megan Thompson was teaching anti-bias seminars at airports across the country. Part of her sentence, forced to confront the harm she had caused. Mike Ramirez was volunteering at a youth center, working with at-risk teens, trying to make amends. Linda Harrington had lost her husband, her lifestyle, and her social standing. A cautionary tale about the cost of entitled cruelty. And Chloe was exactly where she was supposed to be. Fighting, learning, growing, changing the world one case at a time. Her father had asked if standing up for herself had been worth it. Looking at Destiny's hopeful face, at the flight attendant treating every passenger with equal dignity, at the stack of thank you letters from people her legal fund had helped, Chloe knew the answer. It had been worth every terrifying, painful, exhausting moment. Because she had not just fought for her seat on that airplane. She had fought for every person who had ever been made to feel like they did not belong. And she had won. Some battles are chosen. Some choose you. Chloe had not wanted to be a civil rights advocate as a college student. She had just wanted to fly to Boston in peace. But sometimes the moment picks you. And when it does, you have two choices: shrink or stand. Chloe had stood, and she would keep standing for the rest of her life, making sure that no one else ever had to fight alone for the simple right to exist with dignity in the space they had earned. That was her mother's legacy. That was her mission. That was justice. And it had only just begun. In the end, Chloe's story reminds us of one of life's most powerful and painful truths. Sometimes the greatest battles we fight are not the ones we choose, but the ones that choose us. When the world looks at you and decides you don't belong, because of your clothes, your skin, your quiet voice, you have a choice. You can shrink to fit their small expectations, or you can stand tall in the truth of who you are. Chloe stood, even when fear gripped her heart, even when tears burned her eyes, even when every voice around her whispered that it would be easier to just move. She refused to make herself smaller so others could feel comfortable. That single act of courage didn't just win her seat back. It cracked open a system built on quiet prejudice and forced the world to look at its own reflection. This is the lesson that stays with me long after the story ends. Dignity is not something we beg for. It is something we claim. Every time we stay silent in the face of injustice, we teach the next generation that their worth is negotiable. But when we speak up, when we refuse to be erased, we don't just change our own story. We rewrite the rules for everyone who comes after us. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you peace. It may even cost you tears. But standing in your truth always costs less than living a life where you've forgotten who you are. So the next time someone tries to push you to the back, whether it's on a plane, in a boardroom, or in your own dreams, remember Chloe. Remember that your voice matters, your presence matters, and your courage has the power to ripple far beyond what you can see. If this story touched something deep inside you, drop a comment below and tell me, what's one moment in your life where you chose to stand instead of shrink? I read every single one, and if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thank you for being here. Let's keep standing together.